So you missed the intro. So I'm Nikki from The Leap, and I'm here with Chelsea, who's Marketing Director at Levin, and Glenn, who is VP of Marketing, Success and Insights at Meet. Really sorry that you just saw like a couple of minutes of us just moving our mouths. But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about how to create a killer marketing plan. It's obviously quite a big subject, so we didn't want to skim over it. We really wanted to go in depth. So this is the first of 5 parts. It's only 30 minutes. We're going to try and pack in as much as we can, but we're not going to rush through it. Like I say, if we don't get to something today, we'll get to it in 2 weeks' time. There's going to be a marketing plan download that we've put together that we'll share at the end of the session. If you'd like a copy, just drop a comment in the comments below or give the live a like or a share, and I'll make sure you get that. So in terms of comments, Glenn's got the phone over here. We can see a few things coming through. But what we're going to try and do, because it is only 30 minutes, pop your questions in. But what we're likely to do is address them at the beginning of the next session. We might not get to them today, but please do pop your questions in there anyway. And we can also get back to you separately in between as well. So I'd ask Glenn to explain the difference between a marketing plan and a marketing strategy. Do you want to give that a recap again?
Give that again, yeah. I think what I did say, and I need to remember it because I thought it was a really good answer.
It was a really good answer.
So, although we're talking about 2 separate things, they only work together if you have both of them. Certainly in the world of recruitment, in a lot of cases, probably the marketing plan exists a lot more than the marketing strategy. So we have our tactics, we have our content calendars, we know what we're doing and things like that. But in some cases, we don't have the strategy piece. And what the strategy piece is aligning that plan with what the business is trying to achieve, understanding what the business is trying to do on a yearly basis, financially, growth, everything like that. Because then that's how you show impact as a marketer, showing that all the activity that you're doing is contributing to what the business is trying to achieve. And for anyone watching who might not know their business objectives, I really urge you to go and, kick down the door of the SLT and kind of demand what those business objectives are. It's good for you, it's good for your career, and it's good for the business as a whole in terms of growth.
Yeah, definitely. And just to add on that one, it's the why behind the what, really. The strategy is the purpose of what you're doing. The plan, which can be a lot more short term sometimes, it can be updated on a regular basis. The strategy usually is it doesn't change as much, I think, because of what you're trying to align them with those business goals. So why that is the why, and then the plan is the what, the how you're doing it, and the targets and the KPIs that you're tracking. Off the end of it.
Cool. So today we're going to be focusing on the plan rather than the strategy. But if there are questions on strategy stuff, then we can do that in a separate one. So in terms of let's go to Chelsea at Levin. What does the marketing plan consist of in your world?
Yeah, so we are obviously. So for those of you who don't know, so Levin is only about 3.5 years old. Some of our business units, our newer ones, are only 5 months old. So we are still very much growing and trying to get to that sort of kind of stage where we're a bit more established. The plans for us are usually rolling every 90 days. It's some of our older ones, so Storm 2, for example, might have a bit more of like a 6 month to a year plan with certain campaigns, but our newer business units have 90-day plans really in terms of the campaigns that we're trying to do. For us, we have a very content-led approach in terms of our strategy, that value add piece, and the plan consists of the campaigns that we're running, the content calendar, and the channels that we are reaching our audience on. It's talking about, rather than just our target market of where we work, which is our disruptive tech industry or the impact-driven tech sectors, it's talking about how we're reaching the buyer personas within those. And I know we're going to go on to that in a little bit, but how we're actually reaching that audience and the work that we're doing behind it to really get those KPIs, drive the leads, drive the demand generation, and then ultimately hit some of those revenue goals.
So it's all stemming back to the point you made as well, Glenn, aligning your activity with the company goals, the company objectives. So what, you don't have to share specifics, but what company goals do you try and align to Is it revenue? Is it something else?
I think from my point of view, it always comes down to revenue in that sense. People have heard me speak before and things. I always say that I'm probably quite a commercial marketer rather than a creative marketer. There's much better people than me who are good at like the design and the execution sometimes. But I think if you're aligning kind of your marketing plan to those goals, driving repeat business, driving referrals if that's what we want to do and things. But for me, it all does boil down to the money. But equally, and a lot of people will be thinking here is like, well, what about the brand work? You can't put ROI and stuff on that, which is completely fair, and it does have a role to play. But I think anything involved in growth is what your marketing plan should look to, whether that is money, increase in candidates in a certain area, new markets, and things. One thing I would say with marketing plans as well is that you can take lots of different approaches, and I've gone back and forth and flip-flop many times throughout my career, is that you don't necessarily need one marketing plan for your entire business, depending on how it's split up. I'm sure, Chelsea's got multiple storms that there might be individual marketing plans for, but there'll be maybe a consistent theme across them. And I think having that flexibility and giving yourself the permission to have that flexibility based on location and markets, and having maybe mini marketing plans is a very useful activity to go through.
Yeah, we actually, because of the way that the marketing team is structured within Levin and how I've built it, it's brand specific marketing plans, but also regional specific within those brands as well. So it's mini marketing plans for each one, because the audiences are different, because they respond to different things as well. So and the reason why we do those 90-day ones is because of that flexibility piece, rather than, I don't think in current society having a year-long plan, nothing goes to plan. Like, look what happened if you created a year-long plan in 2020, like that would have gone to pot immediately. So it's about absolutely the flexibility piece there is really, really key. And then I guess on the goals piece and what we align ourselves to at Levin, revenue is a big piece of that. Our business goals are about growth, so headcount and revenue. And on the employer branding side of things, which I have a team for, we're focused on inbound applications being the sort of bottom of the funnel for us, and hires that we're making. The branding part of it, obviously much more difficult to measure, but it's trying to create kind of metrics that lead to some of those, obviously the vanity metrics, the followers, the traffic that's going through things as well, that we're trying to understand the conversion rates of keeping that really high as possible, basically.
So in like a global business, do you break, so if your company goal is X amount of revenue, let's say 30 million or something like that, do you then go ahead and break that down by region, by market? How much depth do you go into in your at the beginning of a marketing plan?
Yeah, so I mean, this is then kind of going into sort of targets, I guess, in terms of where we're at. And I think every business is different. I struggled when I first joined this business to, we were only a year old at that point. It was only Storm 2 at that point, of really working out what marketing could do, because I didn't know. I had no idea how much revenue we could impact it by. So I was very lucky to be led by a very commercially marketing minded SLT team, and they basically just gave me a target to hit in terms of that inbound revenue that we were trying to drive, because ours is very inbound focused. Over the last 3 years, that's then been relying on the data of what we have been able to impact. So if your target is 30 million as a business, having a percentage of that coming from marketing and being kind of driven by marketing campaigns or channels.
So yours was sort of given to you
the
to start
the
with.
first year it was a number that was just given to me. Yeah.
And how about you? So say the company gives you this, like, we want to make this much money. You have to go away and set your marketing goals to align with that. how do you pick the right number? Because I suppose no one wants to fall short, right? You don't want to but then you don't also don't want to not aim high enough.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
would you go about that?
I think from I try to work backwards, and in an ideal world, I'd like to be able to attribute £10 for every £1 that I might spend from a marketing
Return
perspective.
investment side.
I think one thing, I'm not saying everything needs to be tracked at all, but I think we do as marketers maybe get nervous or get obsessed, which stops us doing it, is attributing like a whole placement figure or a whole revenue figure to our activity. The reality is that, we don't work in e-commerce where the website where someone can click on a candidate and they hire them straight away. Certainly not in the majority of markets. So again, I think it's giving yourself that understanding that you can have associated revenue.
Yeah.
You never go do the full placement. It's very unlikely. But if you're able to put in the touch points via your CRM and your activity, and you're tracking everything that Chelsea was saying there, you can at least give an idea of influenced revenue or associated revenue. They're kind of the words I use as well. And going back to what Chelsea was saying in terms of tracking traffic, and she used the words vanity metrics, 100% track those, but track those within your own marketing team. There's very little point in those. You might have those as goals for yourself. Don't report them back to your SLT. They're not interested. They might be, but they won't be interested in those vanity metrics. They're more interested in the
Sales.
in the candidate acquisition,
Yeah.
the client stuff. But keep those vanity metrics for you, just in case things start dropping down, because then you can address, oh look, revenue started dropping down. Oh, but also website traffic did. So we need to address that and maybe do some more work in driving traffic to the site via, social media posts and taking uplift in that and things.
It's looking at it like a funnel, basically. It's that top of funnel piece is marketing stats that we measure, because if we can measure it, we can improve it. And the two sides of bottom line, how do you increase bottom line? You either increase the top or you increase your conversion points. There's not as much that you can do when it starts becoming a job that has been given to us through the website. I can't go and force that consultant to go and work the job and headhunt, because that's not my expertise. I can, however, influence it to be the best job possible based on my messaging that we put out there, that we can, so we have the impact of, by the time it's come to us and bringing them in. But other than reporting on those conversion points, which we do as well, which is a really important thing that we do, the sort of sales conversion points, how many of these leads are being picked up by our commercial team, how many of those commercial calls are pulling a job off of the back of them, how many of those jobs are being filled, and then the channels of which they've come in from, where that lead's come in from, and really making sure that, okay, we're noticing that anything that comes through from this channel on the website has a higher fill rate. How are we going to increase that channel, rather than just saying, we definitely need to post more on social media or do X, Y, Z.
I think just to build on that, I think what we do as marketers, I've certainly done it in my career, and I think it's because of the fast-paced industry that we work in, is that we're great at generating that awareness and the interest and leads as such. And when I say leads, email addresses, click-through rates, etc. But what we're guilty of a lot of the time is getting that and pushing it to the salespeople straight away, saying, it's not our responsibility anymore. We've done this. We do probably have more of a responsibility to say, look, we don't need to rush this. We don't, unless it's extremely hot and someone's been really explicit, is that keep them in the marketing world for a bit. Use email marketing as part of your plan. Use automation if you're lucky enough to have those kind of tools. Own your CRM away from the consultants doing it, because that is where you start getting warmer leads and the higher conversion rates.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So to recap on where we're at a little bit. So in terms of company goals, we all agree revenue is the number one. So we want to align with revenue. In terms of marketing goals, you work it back, you look at, in terms of spend, how much ROI you want to make. So there's two different angles there, which is really cool. So you can choose which one works best for you in your environment. And then in terms of marketing analysis, so you at what's working now. So you look at that. You mentioned capturing your followers, but some of those that are vanity metrics. But I agree with what you say, because the company isn't that, then they're interested in vanity metrics as long as revenue's growing, right? But as soon as things get tough, they will turn on that pretty quickly. And they'll want to know how you're impacting the bottom line. So how to clarify on that. Okay, cool. So there are our first three sections of the marketing plan, right? So we've got company goals, marketing goals, and then an analysis of what's working and what's not as your starting point. So in terms of like the competition, how much do you look at the competition? Do they matter? Is there any such thing, or?
At the risk of doing a black and white LinkedIn photo with a quote of "comparison is the thief of joy," I think you can get a little bit obsessed by the
Are you
competition.
obsessed with your competition?
No.
That's a confession.
No, I usually see the competition as a challenge. I think there's no harm. It's very hard to be unique and do things in a different way that's been done. Marketing hasn't changed, for ages. The tactics and the channels might have changed, but the fundamentals of marketing haven't changed. If I look at competition, it's usually a case, oh, that's really good. How can I make it 5% better?
But
Not try and reinvent it.
Do you look at your direct competition? Because we've got our obvious competition, haven't we? Like the same, a recruitment firm operating in the same market. Or do you look at almost a competitive threat? For example, there was a time when everyone thought LinkedIn was the big threat to recruit. Do you remember that? It's like it was
ChatGPT now, isn't it?
No, that. Would
Taking
you
our
even
jobs.
think in your marketing plan? Would you even look at that, or is that too far fetched? Do you go closer to home? Who was our direct competition in the recruitment space?
I have a slightly different opinion on this side of things. So I would say, in terms of competitions, it's kind of keeping them in the peripheries, not from a point of view of, oh, what are they doing? How can I do it better? Actually, because how it impacts our audience, because our audience don't just exist in the space that we interact with them. They exist in a space where they shop around for a product, and they exist in terms of having multiple calls with different recruiters. So my way of thinking about competition is more, if my audience is talking to me and someone else, how is our, like, how are they getting, what are they getting out of that? So it is competition in terms of how can we make our service better than them, but it's understanding it in terms of what that means from a marketing message. How do I make sure that we're more top of mind than that person? So yes, it is looking at what they're doing, but it's more thinking about it in terms of how it's being received, rather than just, oh, they're putting a LinkedIn live, I'm going to do a LinkedIn live, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I might be saying the same thing. It's just in a bit more of a.
I think with that as well, it's probably something that, again, there's a big area of improvement, and I'm very fortunate at Meet that I've been able to build a team effectively around customer success. Is that we make a lot of assumptions around our candidates and clients about what they want.
Yeah. We're the experts.
There's very little loyalty in the recruitment world, especially on the candidate side. Quite understandably, why would there be? But we probably don't do enough, and this would be part of the marketing plan. Is actually going and speaking to our candidates and clients, not from a sales perspective, getting them to understand, how we're doing, how we could be better, what's going to make us memorable compared to other people they might use and things. I think you have to fit that into your marketing plan to inform your next marketing plan and your next marketing plan and your strategy.
I feel like that tees up segmentation quite nicely.
Really nicely.
So I'm aware of
completely by accident.
That we planned the No, so I really want to put this question to Chelsea, just because I'm aware of some brilliant work that her and the team at Levin have done on segmentation. So do you want to talk us through?
Yeah. So we've done quite a lot of work around buyer personas and our sort of ideal client avatar, I guess. And that was born out of trying to not rely on gut feels. Like we know what you know, any good salesperson can have a gut feel in terms of, oh, I'm talking to this person, I'm going to have to tweak my pitch a little bit for this. But I wanted to build it off of data and also be able to, impact our marketing strategy and then marketing plans based on that. When we're creating content or anything that we're doing, are we targeting a really niche segment rather than just anyone in fintech or anyone in any of our kind of sectors that we operate in? So we did do a lot of data deep dive in terms of our own who has sold from us, who's had, you know, the businesses that have done multi-hire accounts with us, anyone who signed higher terms than someone else. Were there any trends between job titles, seniority, business sizes, funding stages of these businesses? Heavy deep dive into all of this data. It took about 6 weeks with a team of 4 people looking at a lot of lines of data, both down and across as well. And then adding in the engagement sides that we could. Are they following us on LinkedIn? Do they open newsletters? All of these things. So are they more susceptible to more interviews? Have they been, you know, better at communication, or are they just colder or anything like that? So looked at all of that side first, started to kind of segment it all and pick up some of those trends. That sort of gave us a little bit of a very rough guideline of who these buyer personas were. And then interviews, not just relying on salespeople and our commercial teams telling us what they thought of these people, but also the marketing team getting in front of these people and quite literally asking clients, what's keeping you up at night time? How can we add value to you, not just in a way of, yes, you need to hire someone. We know that. We know how to do that. That's our bread and butter. How can we capture you at different stages of your awareness and your kind of growth journey of your business, so that we're not just capturing you at the 5% of the time when you actually need to hire. We're trying to do that cross-funnel piece of 95% of the time when you're just in your job trying to hit your own KPIs and build your revenue and be responsible for your teams. So big project that we did, and we're constantly trying to update this as well. We had very good understandings of who they are as a global audience, and now we've kind of even more so in the last sort of 6 months started to deep dive that more as we've got more data around our regional, the nuances around them. The personas themselves haven't changed, but the nuances, cultural differences have changed for different markets.
Our audience to one of your personas?
I mean, we've named them all, so we've had to do them. Yeah, I mean, we've got Startup Steve.
Tell us about
We've
Startup Steve. I know
I can tell you work in marketing, Chelsea.
We've got Startup Steve, we've got Mission Marv, got HR Hannah.
So give us a little top level lowdown.
I'm giving away the secrets at this
okay,
point.
Okay. Can't get the secret sauce from Levin. I tried, but you got a taste there. So loads of data to create personas, like real people.
Real
and then
people.
When you create content,
We're talking to one of these. We've got five personas that we talk to, and depending on what we are, and we treat this in our training. So the commercial team, when they go into pitches, they know they've got an idea of who they're talking to. So they've got a pitch that is relevant to that person. They know kind of not scripts, but they know the kind of angles to be going in for, whether they don't go in with the multi-hire cross-sell straight away. They're only going for that one specialist approach because that certain persona doesn't respond very well to that at the start, based on what we found in our research kind of phase. And then equally with the sales teams as well, they're going after certain people based on, and we do training on that. Marketing do the training part of that as well. So
how about in your world?
I hate personas.
Do you? You're not one of these personas that exist. And I was just like, remember that? Do you remember that on LinkedIn?
I struggle. I just struggle with it. 100%
You
do
don't
it.
like to put people in
Yeah,
the box.
it's putting people in boxes. I think in the world of recruitment, I even hate the
But do you know
candidates and
startup
clients.
Steve?
Yeah. Everyone knows a startup Steve and a HR Hannah. But yeah, I really struggle with it kind of personally. But obviously it's a really useful exercise to go to, as long as you have that room for manoeuvre to know that, you know what, not everyone
People
goes
are
in it.
people, 100%.
Yeah, and I think what Chelsea was saying there, that the exercise, especially going through and interviewing and actually asking the questions, is that you get all that for the persona building and for everything to create. But how many ideas do you create for future content?
Yeah.
You're having those interviews, you're already in the space of, wow, we're interviewing candidates
Absolutely.
and clients, case studies,
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
career journeys. It's an excuse for a conversation. You know, the classic, you know, make the most of everything that you've kind of got there, rather than coming up with new ideas.
How
Definitely.
about, because like in the e-commerce world, they'd use the behaviour, wouldn't they, of website
That's actually
visitors.
where I mean, I know that buyer personas are like used across different industries, but I remember going to an assessment centre just after graduating, and it was for Pottermore, you know, the J.K. Rowling brand that does lots of different things, and the website and things like that. And we had to do a whole thing around buyer personas for. Like they gave us 4 buyer personas basically, and that's where this kind of concept came from my side of things, of like deep diving it and changing our behavior based on what we understand of these different types of people, because exactly as you say, in e-commerce, someone who shops around, puts lots of things in their basket but then doesn't buy anything, that's a buyer persona.
Makes me feel good.
That will be a trigger email that will send an automation based on the fact that they've been segmented like that, and then they're the ones that, you know, seasonal shoppers and things like that as well. They have them across like a big in the retail space for sure.
It'd be interesting to hear any of you drop it in comments, like how you go about segmenting your target customers or even candidates. Because just take an example, like, are there serial job that appliers who have like a load of jobs in their basket?
For sure. So we don't actually really, from a marketing point of view, we don't segment between candidate and client, because the seniority that we recruit for means that they're both the same thing. They're all customers.
I
think you can create those. I'm not sure whether you do it, Chelsea. It's like those business personas, isn't it?
Yeah,
at
that's
company
basically
level.
what these are.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where they are. We've obviously got from, as you said, as a target companies, but these are, what we found with ours is that they're cross-brand across all of ours. They're just in different percentiles depending on what the market is. So that's probably what was most interesting from our data deep dive.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I feel like that brings this first session to a close. I'm really sorry about the mess up at the beginning, but we'll make sure we're pros now. We've got our studio set up. We know we need to press sound as well as video, so we'll get that right next time. But hope you've enjoyed it. We'll pick up all your questions afterwards, and then we'll either get back to you individually or we'll address them at the beginning of the next session. And if we have given you more questions than answers today, like, feel free to get in touch. Always there to help in helping you create your marketing plans. And yeah, we'll get that. If you've put a note in the comments or shared or liked, I'll get the marketing plan template to you within the next 24 hours or so. Cool. Bye everybody.